13-Week Theater is supported by Patreon. Subscribe now and get exclusive early access.
For generations, the Thorns have been a family of tremendous wealth, position, and power. The perfect marriage of Ambassador Robert Thorne and his wife Catherine was fulfilled by the birth of their son, Damien. And then, when the child was 5 years old, something terrible happened.
In 1976, director Richard Donner and writer David Seltzer presented the world with the classic horror film The Omen, about a couple who have their stillborn baby switched with the newly born Antichrist and what happens when his powers start manifesting themselves as he gets older.
Was it a coincidence, or was it an omen? 20th Century Fox presents a film of psychological suspense about an occurrence of earth-shaking importance. Gregory Peck, Lee Remick, The Omen.
I was at the hospital, Mr. Thorne.
A sequel was released without any involvement by Seltzer or Donner, followed by 2 more in the series and an attempted reboot, none of which lived up to the original artistically or at the box office.
I love you, darling.
When Universal Television and A&E had a hit in 2013 with Bates Motel, a prequel series to Alfred Hitchcock's masterpiece Psycho, 20th Century Fox saw the potential of giving The Omen the same treatment. Fox Television tapped Glenn Mazzara, who had spent 2 years as showrunner for AMC's The Walking Dead, to develop the show. Bradley James, who had recently finished a run as Arthur on the BBC series Merlin, was cast as the now adult Damien Thorne, and Oscar-nominated actress Barbara Hershey was cast as Anne Rutledge, the powerful CEO of a multinational corporation tasked with watching over and protecting Damien until he could come fully into his power. The show was originally given a direct-to-series order for Lifetime by programming chief Rob Chernow, but shortly after, Chernow was moved over to sister network A&E as its executive vice president, and one of his first acts was to bring the show along with him. The TV show decided to jettison the baggage of the sequels and set itself up as a direct continuation of the first film, taking place 25 years after those events. Damien, with no memory of the incidents of his youth and unaware of his power or destiny, has made a name for himself as a war zone photographer. In the first episode, we join Damien on his 30th birthday with a callback to one of the most famous scenes from The Omen.
Damien, I love you. It's all for you. Filius meus delectus ucui.
All for you! I had to translate it in Latin. She's saying, "Here's my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." According to the Gospel of Matthew, when John the Baptist baptized Christ, the sky opened, and a voice called out those exact words. Christ was supposedly baptized when he turned 30.
As the season and story progress, people who stand in the way of Damien's destiny suffer grisly ends, most at the jaws of a pair of hellhounds that we discover are being controlled by Anne Rutledge, who introduces herself to Damien and gives him a brief glimpse of what fate has in store for him.
I can't believe it's really you. It's been a long time.
Sorry, do I know you?
Anne Rutledge. Last time I saw you was at your father's funeral.
You knew my father.
He was such a good man. Impeccable character. For him to suffer such a tragic death. For you were so young.
Damien is forced to confront his status as the son of Satan and struggles to free himself from Rutledge's grasp and his dark destiny.
I imagine you don't remember much. That'll change. The past is like a noose around our necks, wouldn't you say? It's a whole new world. The seal's been broken, the trumpet blown. You have so much to offer. Your father would have been proud. It's so good to see you again, Damien.
The devil has many names. Identified by his number. 666. Does that mean anything to you?
He's coming. The Beast.
Damien debuted on March 7th, 2016, to rave reviews and mediocre ratings that only went downhill from there. So, what happened? Well, one major problem was pacing. Damien had originally been planned as a 6-episode first season, but when the move to A&E happened, the network ordered another 4 episodes for a total of 10. Mazzara and his writing staff had meticulously planned a storyline to be played out over that 6-episode run, and suddenly found themselves with 3 more hours to fill. Since the last episode had been intended as a cliffhanger with a huge confrontation between Damien and Rutledge, they couldn't really just tack another 4 episodes of story onto the end. The only place to add episodes was in the middle, which led to plot points being spread thin and some episodes that barely moved the story along. What could have been a gripping, suspense-filled story became a slow slog through irrelevance. The other problem was that even though Damien was inspired by the success of Bates Motel, the fact is that The Omen was no Psycho. Hitchcock's thriller was so well known and so much a part of the cultural consciousness of the late 20th century that even people who had never seen the original film were acutely aware of Norman Bates and his mother and the story behind them. Coming along 16 years after Psycho, The Omen had had less time to establish itself in the culture and never really did, other than the association of the name Damien with evil in general and the Antichrist in particular.
The beast is to rise from the Holy Land itself.
The road from Jerusalem to Rome runs through Damascus. That's where St. Paul saw the risen Christ, and the whole world swept away.
Setting itself up as the continuation of the original story, Damien assumed that the audience was intimately aware of the details of that film. Not much time was spent in exposition other than a few callbacks and flashbacks in the pilot.
I told you we waited too long.
And if you didn't know the significance of plot points like the 7 Daggers of Megiddo or phrases like, "It's all for you, Damien," one could easily be left wondering what the hell, pardon the pun, was going on.
I did. She was so strong. And she had won a Courage in Journalism award. And it was then that I realized I do not have the slightest clue what my sister's been through or seen. I remember one time she was passing a very sad emotional piece of information. So simple. Our world was too small. So she moved on to a new one.
The death of anyone so young and talented is senseless. Period. But they need an out. It's God's will.
A strong believer?
In God? No, not a fan.
Episode 10 aired on May 9th, ending on a cliffhanger about whether or not Damien had embraced his true nature.
You said you would never hurt me!
I haven't. I won't.
What's this?
I'm here to protect you.
Leave me alone. I will kill you. I will kill every last one of you!
No. Kill us all. Let it out.
Sadly, the plot ended up falling off the cliff a few days later when A&D pulled the plug. Damien would not be renewed for another season. In the end, Damien proved to be a TV series that was a love letter to the Omen. It was beautifully shot, brilliantly acted and directed, and had a great, if dragging, continuation of the story that got rid of all of the dross of the later sequels. The only problem was, in the end, there just weren't enough fans of The Omen to keep it on the air.
Monkey.